I'm going to show you why you shouldn't be shifting your weight during the golf swing. Now that might sound quite an extreme view, but when you've seen this video and you understand the difference between shifting your weight and moving your pressure, you'll know exactly what I mean. So what we're going to talk about today is the difference between moving your weight, or also known as moving mass, versus moving your pressure. The best players move their pressure and mass in an efficient way to help them deliver the club more consistently with max control and max speed output. Whereas with amateur golfers, the term alone of shifting weight can cause all kinds of issues. So using force plates here, where we can see how the feet are moving through the ground and how we are moving pressure versus mass, what I want to show you is, in the golf swing, we often talk about moving the weight to the right or to the trail side in the backswing. This can in itself cause a lot of golfers to almost shift or sway too far off the ball. And what we see with a lot of golfers is they struggle with actually rotating, getting depth, getting stability to be able to unwind and push out the ground into impact. So when we look at the pressure here, in the setup position, we can see pretty much I'm roughly 50% left to right in my pressure. And the club's in the middle, so my weight is in the center. However, if I was to move all my weight to my trail foot, naturally we can see I've had to move my whole body and all my pressure is onto my trail foot. Whereas I could keep my weight, so my center, pretty neutral, but actually move my pressure more to the trail side. So we can see there I'm getting like 70% pressure into my trail side, but my mass has stayed relatively central. If we do that with a club where we've got a bit more weight and the hands and arms get further away, mid backswing, I'm starting to get a large proportion of my pressure to my trail side. But what I've not done is moved my weight. So in theory, if I show an example here, I'm going to try and feel like I keep my weight to my left, but still move my pressure. And we can even see there, we're still shifting some pressure in that manner. So how we move pressure versus weight is quite a big difference. Now, unless you can come and get measured with me on the force plates, I'm going to show you a tool that you can use at home to help almost assess whether you're moving your pressure or moving your mass. So in this instance, I'm using a downshift board. So this is a great tool because if we stand on it, depending on where the board is shifting to, we know our pressure is more on one side than the other. If I put the golf club in the center and put my arms across my chest, we can see how my head, my center, when I do this, is barely moving. So I'm not shifting my mass very much here, but I am evidently shifting my pressure. Whereas if I shift my mass and pressure, we can see how that becomes very much a sway, a shift off the ball. Whereas if we shift pressure and we keep mass pretty central with a good effective turn, we create a completely different movement pattern and one that we're looking for that becomes efficient. Now, what I see with a lot of amateur golfers who struggle with not only the understanding of how to do this, so there's a concept in their learning, a misunderstanding in what we think we need to do versus the reality, and this is where shifting weight versus shifting pressure becomes a real problem, but also the physical capabilities. So if you're someone who's quite limited in what we call hip internal rotation, so in the for any golfer, when we turn in the backswing, the trail hip will turn internally. If a player is quite limited in mobility there, naturally this will struggle to turn, and we might see this hip kick out and almost try and get too far over to try and create some width. We also could see limitations in the thoracic spine, so the rib cage. So when we try and turn, we can't get much width here. So in order to try and get more space, we start to lift or we start to really shift off the ball. This is all going to affect the ability to move pressure and mass in an efficient manner. Now we can do this through different movement drills where we can improve this, which I've got some great drills on this video here that'll help you understand how you could probably move differently to improve that pressure shift. But first and foremost, that understanding on what is the difference between moving pressure versus moving mass will allow us to be able to create a more efficient turn with the right load, the right width, and then in turn improve the ability to sequence. So now we can see that when we shift pressure properly without moving hard off the ball, in order to now shift into the downswing, we can see how I'm pushing that ball down through pressure, but I'm not lunging and moving all my mass over. So that would allow some separation, and that sequence, you can see when I do this drill, so my pressure's back, my mass is relatively centered, but to the right still naturally. Shift, mass stays behind. That now gives me a place to turn and push. We look at that on the force plates, and we can see those pressure numbers as I wind up. So 80%, 70 to 80% pressure, roughly going to be on my right side. And now as we move, we're going to get that. How are we going to get that pressure back to the left? You see how that then starts to recenter, creates a push, and now I'm in a place where I can fully turn. So how we move that pressure and mass can be seen visually, can be felt on the downshift board, and then can be applied and felt just through the ground as a key focus. If you're a golfer who thinks your physical limitations are potentially letting you down from doing this movement properly, I would advise signing up to my golf online fitness app here that will give you a range of different exercises and routines to follow that will then in turn help you move better biomechanically, providing you start to do the different types of movements and apply them into your golf swing with the right concept.